Hi, I'm Mia,
And I'm Matt.
and this is the Kind Podcast. Today we are having a conversation with Mr. Josh Webster with Code for America. Can you give us a little intro? Say hello to the people.
Well, hello everyone. Josh Webster, Memphis born and raised, outreach fellow for Code for America.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
So, Josh, can you share the journey that led to you pursuing a career in social work?
Pretty long.
Fine.
Currently in this position, outreach fellow, taught for a number of years, but my initial push into social work definitely came in my first internship with youth villages. They put me as a recreation intern, which was, I got the fun part of it, but lockdown facility at here in Memphis, and was able to be a part of that environment and see that the day-to-day life and hear stories. And then when parents came to the facility, I was able to kind of talk with them about the next steps for their young men, and that kind of opened up a passion for me, along with going back to my old church. It's no longer there. It was in downtown Memphis, right? For the people at home, know about Foot Homes and Claiborne Homes. It's projects that are no longer there. They're townhouses. But volunteered, work as a camp counselor in my old community, and seeing the need for someone like me to be in that space. Multiple years working for Lakeside Behavioral Health with their kids division, and was a case manager with Children's Home Society in Florida when I lived in Orlando. That was the eye opener for me more than anything else. That pretty much, like, we're not highlighting how important it is to keep a child in their home, but also to give their parents the backing that they need, but also social workers and other case managers the backing that they need to support outright. And that just led me to know that, like, hey, I want to work with kids and young adults more than anything. It's this hope factor. And it's just be real, the older you get, the light starts going away a little bit. But it always has been that connecting factor. And then after that, I was like, you know what? I want to work in schools, and taught for 8 years. And then the change of, like, how my original kids are now 2021. I remember seeing a few of them, and I'm like, oh, after you left middle school, all these things happened that we were trying to avoid. I need to be in another space. And that was the push of, like, how do I learn more about policy and how does government work within organizations and the silos. So that was my long story short with that.
So, you always worked with, I know that y'all call them opportunity youth for people that aren't as familiar, but it's kind of like that really crucial moment in someone's life where there's a lot of things happening all at once. There's a lot of development, a lot of change, a lot of outside factors, like that 14 to 18 range. Mm-hmm. What is your favorite part about working with that population?
The creativity. I've had the pleasure to work with elementary kids, so you see it as its purest form.
Yeah.
This is not black. That's brown to a 5-year-old. That's brown to me, right? And then get 18, 19, 20, and like, no, that's black, right? Just that color. Their ability to think outside the box and be unaware of some of the struggles of their parents. And sometimes it's sad when they understand the struggle of their parents, but when they're at that 14 age, that's the moment for the door open for them to dream. And with what they have at that point, they'll do it. And like those moments, I remember sitting at a lunch table, laughing about literally a shoestring and what they'll do with it and how they used it to connect. I remember one student, to fix a window. I'm like, I would not have thought that. And I was like, I just learned something from you. So it's just those moments of their creativity and seeing that light is still there. So
yeah, and one of the interesting parts about that population, I think, is it's overlooked. And I know that's something that we talk about a lot. And I know that when you're working with people in that age group, you really got to draw from your own experiences and really make it a connected relationship. It's not that type of population where you could give direction, you got to do these steps to get to this point. It's like you got to go down in the trenches. So What about your own personal experience, your personal background that do you draw from to make those connections possible and that you really make those meaningful relationships to make change?
To be a little bit self-aware, I look back on it now to reflect on my those years of exposure. There was a lot of things that I know. I came from a single parent home. Luckily, I played two sports where I did martial arts karate. Martial arts karate and baseball, to where I was able to see certain things. I had the ability to like, oh, this is a profession. Oh, this person parent does this. I had that exposure, being able to see, and it's like this analogy that I heard years ago, and it still remains true. Like, why do so many kids want to be basketball players? That's what they see. Why not physical therapists? It doesn't come in front of their face, not knowing what they do to push forward. And my idea at those times was like, how can I give them exposure to just even a different game or opportunity, or someone that does something that's outside of the box, that's connected to something that they enjoy. I remember bringing a PT friend to the school that I was at, the high school at the time, and they were like, oh, like, yes, I've worked with a sports team. Yes, I did some stuff with the Grizzlies. Here, my picture with Tony Allen. They were just freaking out, not knowing that this doctor here started exactly in a school like you. They're at like a charter school a long time ago.
Yeah.
And just that exposure, and me knowing there's a lot of things that I missed out on because I didn't get a chance to see because of my mother's opportunity and whatnot. But like that, just bringing those options in front of them to think of another way.
Man, you're hitting it right on the head. I mean, I think one of the things that we connected on, so just a background, you and I know each other from my work with youth, 18 to 24, over at Hub Hall, our transitional house for young adults. I remember in this world, you meet a lot of people that do a lot of amazing things, but it's not always that you meet someone that you align on kind of the essence of the work. And I think that was kind of at the forefront of when we first met each other. But I do want to bring it back to what I mentioned earlier about this population being overlooked and stigmatized beyond belief. I mean, truthfully. And I wasn't aware of it, and I wouldn't put myself in the category of someone that did stigmatize them, but I would put myself in the category of someone that overlooked them until I was in a position to actually work with them. And I think, can you speak to kind of like the barriers that are created and the issues that arise as far as your experience with this population from that stigmatization and that overlooking?
I was kind of aware of some things before I got into this position, but especially now, and having the chance to talk with people from the city of Memphis, Shelby County government. When we look at programming overall in the city, 0 to 16 and families, an old mentor of mine that now works for the city of Memphis was told, we do no programming for this age group. It was like, they bring trouble. That's what was told,
yikes.
and there's no funding for it. So for years, they went out of their way not to have anything. So you get this, hey, I'm 17, I've been connected to a community center, I've been connected to a program for the last 5-6 years. I turned 18, there's 0 for me.
Right.
And if I'm in the city limits, which is like, this is a big thing. It's like knowing the difference of Shelby County and city of Memphis and where things are held, there it's even more of a lack of once you get out. Because in Memphis, zip codes know no bounds in terms of support for young adults. And what I kept seeing that was like, probably like the most profound thing is like when you start following the funding, and funding for specifically for this age group are pushed into organizations that deal with family and older adults, whereas people are going out of their way purposely not to engage this group. And it was just always like profounding to see that optional programs years ago, like literally 10 years ago, after school programs for this age group were cut to where now like they've had to pretty much teach themselves for the last 8 years, and now they're 20 and now it's their fault. Whereas their school system went through multiple superintendents, multiple turnovers, no programs to learn about to be a carpenter, plumbing, electrician, taken out of your school, and then we turn right around as a community. You're doing this. You're doing all the crime, whereas they've had to police themselves for the last 10 years, and not removing that stigma and pointing fingers at ourselves, especially like voting, like parental. Like I feel like we're all parents in this, but as a citizen here in town, making like that point of like, hey, we're the cause of this. How can we like come together and actually stop these silos and help this group, because they want to learn, they want to be a part of something. So
Do you find that they are aware of that overlooking and that stigmatization? Like, do you find when you work with opportunity youth or people in this age group that it's almost like they're aware that they're overlooked? Like, do they know that, or is it just kind of it's something that just doesn't pop up, so it's not even on their mind?
it's a little bit of both. To kind of go back to the beginning, Code for America. We're a civic tech company working alongside government to how can we make government easier? How can we use this digital platform, this digital age to to clear up any barriers, such as like we have a program working with tax benefits, cleaning up food benefit programs instead of filling out a 100-page online report to get food benefits. How can we, as a company, shrink this down to 5 pages? And also, oh, you need something else? This same information can work. So how can we make government easier for people? And we, alongside the Shelby County Youth and Education Subcommittee, did a research project called YPAR, Youth Participatory Action Research, where we took 10 young adult researchers, 18 to 24, and conducted research over an 8-month period. They were tasked with creating actionable recommendations for the county to support young adults. And in that, and being in those rooms and being at community centers with our researchers, hearing from 16 and 17-year-olds that are not in school at the time that this is the only time I can come. They won't let me come later because they're doing programming. They don't listen to me, so that's why I don't go to school. And then to hear that 300 times, and then actually have data showing like we have the 22-year-old males, like 40 of them that said this, and were specific about the company and who they talked to. Like when you're able to remember that, like
Yeah.
there's a lot of mental fortitude there to keep pressing and pushing forward and remembering that. So we definitely, a lot of them are aware that, and it's for years, going back to being in middle school, that purposely you think I'm dumb. Purposely your expectation of me is that I am gonna go commit something. So aware, but the knowledge of how to change it is something that's lacking, and it's once again not their fault. So
Yeah, I think that there's a lot to be said for the people who have those impactful experiences young in life, and especially when they're negative. But from speaking to other social workers and other people who are in this population, I know that there's sometimes a one-person pivotal experience that changes their life. Can you speak to anything from your past that's like that?
yeah, and we were kind of chatting up prior to this, and about a role model that I had later. One was Bob Loxton. Knew this man. He was my old youth minister from the age of 10 until I graduated high school, and a little bit after that I kind of pushed along with. He was going to Harding Academy, so a lot of times I went with him when he went out into the community because he was a case manager as well. So sitting at certain centers, homeless shelters, and seeing how he didn't care about the color of your skin. I'm going to sit with you. I need to know what you need. And him purposely making an action of following up and making sure that I was with him. I didn't understand that later on about closing the loop. I had to learn that as an adult for personal life and for work. Like, you close the loop, and regardless of what it is, don't keep anyone waiting or a thought or services lingering. So now how I try to work is from him, and seeing that for 5 years, and especially the 2 years he was taking me with him, of like making sure that you close the loop. Even if you didn't get it done, close the loop. wish I would have used that throughout college. uh, but closing the loop, and and everyone probably can see this. I'm a 6'3" black man, and noticing that I had certain mentors that kind of followed, but I didn't like. You would think for me in my work that having a black mentor to kind of push and lead me would be a thing, but that was never something I had until the last couple of years, where I've ran into individuals and men. Mr. Raymond Cheers, who has been from Family Man, has been excellent in cultivating how I think about processes, and when I decide I want to talk with the group or share a piece of information and connect those dots, he has been that thought partner to really push me. And we're seeing that too, and that's why I love that question. Our young adults that did research asked, so all through community surveys and in person, like, what are you yearning for? Like mentorship. And the right mentorship, and someone, and what I got from is the closing a loop, and still to this day, Robert Loxton has been that person for me that got me into the field of social work.
That's beautiful. And so now that you're in it, and you're in the thick of it, you're in the weeds. What is your perspective on it currently? I think a lot of people, when people hear social work, I mean, they typically think like school counselor, or they think just like someone that's very specified in like the mental health field. When social work's really broad, and there's a lot of different types of people doing a lot of different types of things. So how's your perspective on it kind of altered now that you've been doing the work?
Sometimes a lot of times it's thankless. But what I've seen when I look at the large scope is Memphis is a very siloed city, and we say that a lot. But the silos aren't small anymore. There are huge sections where information is not being passed. A couple of months ago in November, us and our partner Rise Kit had a workshop with various organizations, and their emphasis at one point is like, if you have a young adult program, we want you here. We want to talk about it. What does connectivity look like? And then sitting in some of those groups and then synthesizing that data, we started seeing that social workers aren't aware of what's going on in the next street to them. The organizations didn't know that this one ever existed, and they've been working in the same space. The amazing people that are doing the work are not, information and benefits from organization down are not being shared to support them. There's a lot of great things, but I just kind of sit on that a lot, that when you say siloed, it goes inside an organization as well, and a lot of burnout has happened, and that's a real thing. But that's like the state. It's like they're siloed within an organization and siloed outside. So
Yeah, definitely. That's a really interesting perspective. I don't think a lot of people think about it that way. But you talked about burnout and a lot of the cons that come with this job that can be a heavy load to bear sometimes. How do you balance, social life and kind of taking care of you so that you can fill others' cup at the same time?
over the last couple of, I would say 10 years, I didn't understand it. Especially I was a teacher and then worked for the YMCA, and I did all of that at the same time, trying to fill everybody else's cup. How was I? I always had this mindset of like, I'm giving so much to somebody else's kids, but I'm not calling mine on time to read goodnight, and especially working for the company I do now, we prioritize take time for you. I read this article when I first got onboarded about time and your childhood joys, and I've made an emphasis of even now for the next 2 months, I've already taken a PTO. I'm making a point to take time to myself and push into activities that at one point I had hope with. And that's why I always come back to the little kid thing. It's like how do I make it a point on the front end to look ahead and do things that brought me joy as a kid, and push back into those. So jump back into martial arts. I'm an outside person. I make it a point to make sure to go hike, and it's scheduled.
That's good.
It is one of those things where, like, I'm going to schedule it. It's a priority. If I don't do it, it's a fail for the day. So making a time to push in those childhood joys, and that's a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I thought you were about to say golf. I'm not gonna lie, because we spoke recently, and I'm a huge golfer.
I hit yesterday, sir.
No, but I mean, but for real, I mean, what you just touched on is probably the most important aspect of social work that people don't think of. Our executive director, the hospitality of, was talking, and one of the things he preaches is like, you can't pour from an empty cup. And I think that you hit the nail on the head with a lot of people entering into the work, and like myself, I'm like really 4 years into it. You kind of weigh yourself off of however much you've given to others, and that is an extremely hard place to be, because you don't take yourself into account, and when you just solely base your abilities off of what you can give, you don't realize that you're depleting everything that you have, and you're just depleting when you don't refresh that, and you don't take the time, like you said, to connect back to the things that make you happy. Before you know it, you got nothing left. And it's something I'm currently working on, and something I think that the hub does a great job of too, of like, I've had people that have worked under me that have walked in and been like, I need the day off. Like, yesterday was awful. I need to go home. I need to just reset. And it's always been a point. It's built into our PTO of like mental health days, making sure that you are on top of what you need to be on top of personally. So that way it doesn't affect you professionally, but also it allows you to expand and really dig into the work. Because like I said, this work is not work that is seen by many others, and it's something that takes a giant toll on the individual doing it. So I think what you said is perfect, and did not know you're into martial arts. So that's another new fact that I've grown to know, and I'm actually going to try to do some myself. So
Good.
I might be hitting you up for that.
Everyone.
Can you talk about the relationship with martial arts?
Oh my God, John's obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Benefits with mental.
He does the same thing.
Physical, and how they kind of you incorporate that. You take anything from that into the work that you do. Is there any relation, correlation, or connection?
Yes, sir. The connection for me, at every point, everyone's a martial artist. If you change that mindset, that discipline, being able to be in the moment and focus on your task, that it doesn't need to be this powerful thing that we need to strong arm. It needs to flow. And how can you always get back to a point of flowing and using every small movement to your advantage? So just like a backstory, I did competitive karate from like 8 till 17. I stopped, which I felt like I lost a lot. And I decided to go back at the beginning working for Code for America, and went back and became a first degree black belt in Shotokan karate.
Holy.
So,
Period.
and I competed and whatnot, and the joy of this big thing of not giving up, that no matter how hard it is, if you take the tools, and just to back up a little bit, like when people think you have a black belt, no, that means I'm proficient in the basics. That's what that truly means.
I didn't know that.
Like, you are proficient in the basics. You are ready to, now your journey truly begins. Now you're gonna have to break down the smallest down blocks to understand, like, what is the purpose of this? How does this transcends or connects back to something else? And the way that I looked at our research that we did in the community is like needing for patience, needing to realize if I'm looking at the same question or the same answer from a young person around about why this organization didn't call me back, how can we dig a little deeper there to seek to understand? So I've definitely taken my Shotokan champions karate, Cordova, by the way, to heart with that, and that has brought me like a lot of peace of like, that's the best time to step away. It's like, now I know that if I'm not going about this route, let's get help. Let's look to my master. Let's look to the ones. Let's look to the community. So that's definitely how martial arts has helped me with it.
That's beautiful. I mean, someone has never stepped foot into martial arts, and I'm honestly terrified of it. Not because I think I'm going to get hurt, but I know the amount of discipline it takes.
It's humbling. It's humbling.
I've watched too many interviews where people talk about like big guys going in there thinking they're about to just destroy someone half their size, and that person puts them in a pretzel within 2 minutes. And I've always found that interesting. But again, the fear or the hesitancy from me is the discipline aspect. I feel like I have to go into it more disciplined in my personal life, professional life before I even take that on. I've had people tell me it's the exact opposite, that it teaches you how to do that. So it might be something I try to venture out into. But that did bring up a question I have too regarding your work. A lot of social work too, and I'm imagining it's similar to martial arts, is you have a lot of trial, a lot of error, a lot of fails, but those wins mean that much more when you've taken into account what you learned from when you lost. So what are some highlights of the work that you've done? Like, what are, some wins that you can look back on and be like, you know what, like that I could rest my head at night knowing if nothing else, I made this type of impact.
This is by far the greatest one because I'm still in contact with them to this day. I spoke on me working for Children's Home Society when I was in Orlando, Florida. And just a summary of the case, I something just didn't feel right with these two adolescents, and talked to teachers, talked to the school case manager. I was hearing what the mother said, and like they were always in contact with me. Like they always got in touch with my phone, and everything was looking great. And I made like a split decision to kind of look into something else, and realize that some things were happening with benefits and another family member that worked for the school. So that's just things I didn't know, and was able to remove them from their home, but in a way to where they were with a grandparent, found the grandparent, and every year, I already heard from them this year, but now they're in their 20s, right? And still like to know that me digging and me like at that time I was 26 with gray hair. Like I have a little now, but I was like, why do I have gray hair now? Why am I stressed out? Knowing that through all of that, I'm like, they are thriving right now. And they're still in Florida and one is other places, but like I made the right decision to keep digging, to hear them, not to slide what they were saying under the table. And I'm holding on to the day I die. And the fact that I still have that connection and that's one that I'm going to hold. This past year, the YPAR work, we did the Shelby County YPAR presentation in front of the mayor, Lee Harris. Was a community presentation data walk where all our researchers, everything they did throughout the year was on display for the community. And to oversee that project, to get out of my comfort zone, to pour into others, to pour into others. Like that's, sometimes you don't think about that. I want to pour into you, realizing that, hey, you're going to pour into 30 people.
Right.
Like, how do I set you guys up for success and organizations up for success? And from that presentation, like Mayor Harris said, there's money right now to do some of those recommendations. And to be a part of that and them see that their hard work is going to significantly help young adults going forward. You may not see it now. We planted the seed. I may not be alive to see like when it transitions, but to go through that process and know that something is on the works now has been a big highlight for me. So
Absolutely. That's beautiful. I love the idea of you're pouring onto others to then pour on to others. That's really a great image. You touched on how much research Code for America does. And as someone who's more ignorant to this space and, getting used to the ins and outs, the secrets, all that kind of stuff of this arena, is that the main differentiator for Code for America compared to other companies, or are there other things that play a role that are pretty different comparatively?
Okay. There are other civic tech companies, but Code for America, being a national nonprofit, in order to kind of redefine systems, Dr. Joy said this the best. Like, these systems aren't broken; they were created. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. Like,
Wow.
we can't we can get mad at it, but it's doing what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
100 pages of a document is supposed to stop people from filling out for benefits. And with that, and like even the basis of the company, when it was what it's based on was from Get Cal Fresh, of going into different communities in California and different zip codes, different counties, to where if you had to fill out a document, you had to fill out all these pages. You had to find the office, which was not in your county, take it to that office, wait. Then California has a very diverse background. If it's in Spanish, you're out of luck. You got to go fill out another one. And from that, it's like, all right, interns and fellows went into those communities, spoke with those people, got all the data that they needed, qualitative, quantitative researchers. And a lot of our projects have been based off meeting people where they are. When you say human-centered, in order to be human-centered, you have to hear what the citizens are saying, because they are the government. And that has been like the bread and butter of Code for America. It's like, how can we be human-centered on this tech field, but also make sure that government is sit on point, because government needs to be there. So research has been like our bread and butter, long story short. So.
Yeah.
Well, one of the cool things too that I'd love for you to touch on is part of research is getting valuable data. Part of getting valuable data is targeting a specific population. For y'all, it's opportunity youth and your specific work with the YPAR. One of the hardest things to do is to sit down with someone who has no idea who you are, no idea what your company does, and you're starting a whole new initiative. How do you get someone with all of that kind of against you to sit down and trust you that, hey, this is someone that I'm okay divulging this information to, and I believe that this individual, Josh, is going to take this and actually make an effective change?
That's where the social work approach, or like thinking like a social worker, really like is the bread and butter for anyone. We through our YPAR, we used to say community elder. That can be literally a 26-year-old. But once you make the connection with a trusted person or someone that's in that community that supports others, that's like your first step. There's always this big caveat of research that people go into places and want to talk to a community, they take it with them. They don't talk to the people that are doing the work or have been large advocates within a space for years. So that's always like a big point. Like, how do we make sure that we connect with the leaders, that we show our sustainability first, that this is what we're doing, to say, hey, these are trusted people coming in and talking to us. Do you have capacity to share? And that has always been like for us in this project, the best way to kind of go about it. Like, get connected with who's the leader in that space, make a connection, make that bridge, and then it's usually like right away to someone is willing to share.
Yeah, and just to give people a kind of away from the work an idea of what that physically looks like, what do you think the ratio is? And I mean, I could share from my end of when I was doing outreach, I would say like 1 out of every 8 people I encountered would be like an effective change that they would be able to trust me. But those other 7, as you spoke to earlier, it would take a reciprocal relationship of showing up, continuing to do that work over and over again. What do you think would be your, I guess, rate of success when it came to having someone be able to trust that you are doing what you're saying you're going to do, and they can have faith in the fact that you're going to do right by them and their information?
I would personally, 3 out of 8.
That's beautiful.
3 out of 8. And having that rapport piece with the person, like us in the workshop at Hub Hall. Mm-hmm. And when they came into the room, they were a little bit hesitant, but they knew. I was like, hey, Matt, wanted us to allowed us to come in. We have a great connection, and they were like, "Okay, you talk to Matt. All right, we'll." Everything opened up quickly. It was like, okay, he trusted you guys in the space, so okay, we're on board. So that's, but a cold in the mall but yeah, usually 3
Yeah.
overall.
Well, so moving forward with the YPAR and you got all this stuff, what are you most excited about for the future when it comes to your work and Opportunity Youth?
What we've been seeing and what we've been seeing is like the need for a one-stop shop. There's truly no way to create that unless you have like every bit of information and organization on board. But one of the recommendations that our young adult had from the YPAR work was we need a digital one-stop shop to where we can go and get trusted resources, connected with mentors, connected with jobs that will keep us and hire us, connected with organizations for help. That's where we kind of come in, like with the organization called Rise Kid that was kind of already doing that with Opportunity R3, and connecting with Rise Kid to create this one-stop shop. If we put trusted providers together, people that are actively doing the work, that are not just, hey, we have these programs, hey, we do this outreach. No, that are actively making efforts to connect young adults or just anyone with resources. Like, how can you put those people together on a platform that is free for them to use, that young adults have their data available for them as well, and then we connect them with trusted employers. It's as a tech company, that's where we're kind of pushing ourselves to. We see that that's how our young adults connect more than anything else. Unless an elder shares information or they find it online. So how can we push into that?
Yeah, that's a great idea. I wanted to ask, talking about that and being a tech company, I mean, our world is changing and a lot of things are evolving and looking a lot of different ways, but how would you say AI is playing a role in all the things that you were doing? What is y'all's perception of it?
It kind of goes two ways in my mind. The broader scope, AI is here to stay, and just the functionality of how we deal with forms, even parts of Rise Kit, other than like we're going to have navigators that are going to be able to kind of tap in, but AI being this learning system to be able to jump in and say, hey, if you need help with this form, if you need assistance with creating your login, though the importance of that is going to be there. That's what we're
Right.
pushing into, because we want to have a more automated system to kind of bypass the need for certain interactions that can get a person moving kind of quicker. So how can we get you to service quicker?
Right.
But then the back end of that is a lot of people, or a lot of, just in general, are not aware, or it's like the tech divide in itself is an issue. Other than, and this was a scary thing. I noticed this before I left out of school. I had eighth graders typing like this, right? And I'm looking at them like, how long have you had computers? For like the last 7 years. But this is their typing. Through the YPAR research, other than an app, the level of searching Google, using a laptop proficiently, was you would think a 22-year-old can do that, even a college graduate. It was so wide that you think they were in their 60s. And in order for AI to truly be something that will work long term, digital literacy has to be a thing.
Right.
And it has to be a thing from a young age. And it's such a big gap that AI will make a person frustrated. So hence why we still need a live person there to walk them through. That human touch is still needed. I love the direction parts of AI are going in, but in order for it to work, just the digital literacy part needs to be
Absolutely.
ramped up.
Yeah.
I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up for talking about AI. It's like a weird intersection when it comes to workforce and AI, because while it makes a lot of things proficient, it also scares people, because it's like, why would I hire 5 people to do a job, like these amount of jobs, and I could just filter it all through an AI system? Is that something that, like, I won't say concerns you, but does that ever pop up, like when you're doing these interplays, and you're very tech heavy, obviously, with the work that you do. Is that something that you're like attempting to integrate into currently existing systems, or is it really even like a part of the conversation because AI is so new, we don't really know where it's going? Like, to what degree do you see it affecting workforce when it comes to this specific age group? Or does it just change the outlook of what that looks like? So, like, for example, when I've talked to John, is really really up to speed with a lot of this stuff. Some ways it could look like is it just changes the format of the position. Like, you're more utilizing AI, so you want to become an expert in it, that kind of thing. So how do you see it changing that landscape?
What I've been seeing thus far, and like I can speak to with the programs that platforms I've worked alongside, AI gives like a suggestion more of anything. Like, hey, we've looked at these 5 things that they support this person in this position, or this looks better for them. Do these 3 jobs that I have here line up? Right. I love the direction that's going in because it may match a person's resume or the box that they have checked of their interests. With certain degrees of, so we'll take Memphis for what we're working here, but a lot of organizations are like Cold Crew, the Collective Blueprint, are gearing their young adults in tech, and Cold Crew just started their own AI program modules that they have launched. Looking at that, and our workforce is pushing in a great direction. It's the demand of the job in the space that is much more scary to me than anything else. There are very few, and we are having a workforce that's moving into that direction. A younger workforce is moving in that direction, and with a supply of those jobs that weigh on AI and data analysis, will they be available? And as of now, that's the part where like it's the most concerning. They're not available. And that's where it kind of correlates to the workplace, that now we have a bunch of young people and older people that have these digital certifications and degrees, and it's like we can't get a job because there's only one available for international paper or et cetera. So that's what I've been seeing more than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to me. I'm more of like a doomsday guy. I just think I'm always like, I'd rather prepare for the worst, hope for the best type of thing. I do think AI is going to be integrated more seamlessly than people are worried about. But I do think it's just one of those things that's popped up and it's new. But
it's been around, and we for longer than you can think. Like if we've been playing video games for a while, it's been learning, and the way that we send emails, and especially like my company, we're like inside, we talk about how like even little things of like when you tap on a QR code, even if we send it, like AI has already made a suggestion to whoever it's going to. So it's been utilized, and like you said, it's already in so many things that we do.
Yep.
Even down to like our cards, our ID cards, like it's there. So like, it's going smoothly, but the overhaul that what people think that's gonna happen, and I don't necessarily think that right away.
Yeah, I hope not. I don't think so either. I do think it'll be kind of like what you said. It's more of a tool that people are going to be able to utilize, and then you can master it, and it'll just change the way that maybe certain work is done, but it won't change the entire atmosphere of that. But, as we're kind of coming to an end, I wanted to ask you, what is one message that you want to share with the people watching this that are interested in your work, that, want to learn more about you and the work that you do and the population that you serve?
Probably what I've like seen personally that goes like me as a fellow and me as a Memphian is the importance of government. Not on a federal level, but local level, down to the research about our districts, and the jobs within the districts, and support with funding that goes to Opportunity Youth. Like we talked about this, like how a lot of the state funding around the state goes to local government in Middle and East Tennessee. Here, Opportunity Youth, that workforce fund for Opportunity Youth, doesn't go to the city of Memphis. It goes to 3 private nonprofits. And that's not like, how is that helping Opportunity Youth when the other side of the state are so many programs that government is leading? When government leads it, everyone now is like, oh, we're at the table. It's one, taking more initiative in what's going on in your district, understanding like who's your commissioner, understanding their thoughts, what programs are available. And when you start looking at the landscape, this group, there's little to no programming. I have 3, and those 3 come from city of Memphis in my mind. There are amazing things happening for this group, and there are people that are actually trying to make that work. We're creating a Reconnection Council with the Shelby County Youth and Education Subcommittee, which would support 18 and 24-year-olds. There is nothing for that group to bring all those services and highlight organizations in one place. There's no one that's doing that. But if we can create that, and we're in the process of creating that, how can we streamline? How does this group streamline services at large to 16 to 24-year-olds in all of 901? So there you go.
I love it, man. And I just want to extend, we're super thankful you came on. Like I said earlier, since we've met, it's really seldom that I meet someone that I'm like, okay, yeah, we 100% align with this. And I think it's really cool. I have no hesitancy that you'll probably be back on here after some things happen in the very near future that we're super excited about. And I'm really pumped for just another conversation with you, because you do have a lot of insight, you have a lot of knowledge, and you also have a lot of power behind your words. You know what you say means a lot, and you're willing to go out there and do it. And that is something to me that is not shared by many people. So thank you for the work you do, and thank you for coming on here.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure. And again, someone who's still learning about a lot of this stuff in this population, and policies and government. The way that you explain it is very easy to understand, even though it's highly educated. I can tell, like you said, you know what you're talking about. And so I appreciate you passing on that education.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yep.